and an executive director of PlanRVA was the same person. And over the time when the new executive director came in, which is no longer new, Ms. Schickel, that position got split, and Mr. Parsons was the TPO director. With the formation of the CVTA and Mr. Parsons being hired by the CVTA, the TPO never doesn't fall under the PDC, okay? I know that's a double negative, but the TPO is always under the PDC, the Planning District Commission. It's at the discretion of the commission or the board or the executive director whether that transportation director serves as a role of a director of the TPO, but it is, by organizational chart, a subordinate position to the PDC. So the TPO is always under the PDC. The idea was to open up an interview for that role when Mr. Parsons left and have a TPO director. The executive committee started speaking, and a number of folks around this table at the full commission started thinking about going back and just combining those roles, eliminating the TPO director being a separate role, which again eliminates a salary and there'll be some combination. But to go back for efficiency matters and have the executive director of the PDC also serve as the executive director of the Transportation Planning Organization. So a number of discussions went around to be brought to the full commission for discussion in just a moment. But I want to open it up first and recognize Chairman Holland of the TPO for his comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we discussed, what we're looking at is how can we be more efficient, but also make sure that the work gets done and gets done well. And I might add, sir, that we've been very pleased with the results of what we have experienced with Martha. Martha has been quite phenomenal. And so from as a TPO director, chair rather, it's been my pleasure to work with Martha, who has done a tremendous job. I'm one of the longest serving board members in this region, having served, I can't recall the years, but it's been about 17 of them. And so I've seen it, go through the evolutions of the pandemic and all other issues. And so I just want to say, Mr. Chair, I applaud the efforts of the executive committee and his wisdom and his guidance in that regard. And of course, I've expressed my concerns accordingly as well to you, and all of you are well aware of that.
So thank you, Mr. Holland. So with that, the idea that the executive committee discussed was to have an interim director up until the time of July 1. There's been no discussions on salary. The executive committee and the full commission need to have information provided to them that helps them make a better decision. But that if Ms. Schickel was then appointed as the full-time executive director of the TPO, the salary would be commensurate with that position and would be retroactive for the days that she serves as interim. There's no recommendation on that at this time because we don't have a full understanding of what the entire executive committee would want to do as far as it relates to compensation in that role, because we'll be eliminating the TPO director as a standalone role. And by the way, this would be a great time. Miles, thank you for your time serving once we had to fire Chet and send him over to CVTA. But you've done a phenomenal job, and we thank you for your time there. So with that, we do need to get these things straight, and I'm going to recognize Ms. Newbill for a proposed motion.
Sure.
Dr. Newbill.
Thank you. So the motion is to appoint Ms. Schickel, who is Executive Director of PlanRVA, but PlanRVA and RRTPO effective today. And that the executive committee would go back and review compensation package and would bring that back to the board upon review. And that during this interim period, that she would receive she would receive compensation, but it would be retroactive pursuant to the development of the compensation plan by the executive committee that will come back. And so that's the recommendation.
Very well. The chair has received a motion to make Ms. Schickel the executive director of the Transportation Planning Organization while maintaining her role as the executive director of the PDC, with compensation to be determined upon permanency of that role July 1st, should it be at the pleasure of the commission, and that any compensation that becomes permanent as of July 1st, 2024, would be retroactive to this date. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Waddell?
The budgeting, or the reporting, will there be two buckets in one bucket in our budget with her salary would be split between the two organizations, does it?
So the TPO is always under the PDC.
Yes.
We just made we used to have the transportation director of the PDC handle the TPO business. So here, we'll no longer have a TPO executive director as a standalone position. So that money always comes through, it's always PDC money.
So there's no change in accounting?
Right.
Sorry, thank you.
Other than what would be normally customary for compensatory matters as it relates to an employee. And then that would be handled that way.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything further?
Mr. Chair, just one question.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Just want to make sure that, because I'm not, I know it's an additional workload, so Martha, you're okay with the additional workload?
Well, that's what I said. Yes.
All right, so thank you for your question, Dr.
Exactly.
Newbill.
Exactly, we talked about that, and there would be a need to hire some administrative support. We know Martha is extraordinary, but we also need, know that would be a need additionally. So we would be looking at an administrative support position to be determined in terms of.
So it's interesting,
responsibilities.
that has been brought up so much, and thank
Yes.
you, Mr. Carroll. Ms. Schneider, I saw you, do you have anything to say before I address that?
No, I said the same thing, but he said that you guys talked about it earlier
Yeah.
today,
So we have, and we've also spoken to the CVTA in non-formal matters, as if there's some administrative support that's gonna be needed there, that maybe there could be some cost sharing. But that has been brought up by a number of folks, and there is a plan for that. Right now, the term interim is just to get Ms. Schickel in that position so she can take over those responsibilities. She can also bill as a TPO director if this motion passes. And then those two have to go together, Mr. Carroll, so we would not put somebody, but thank you for bringing that up. It was brought up in the executive committee and a number of commission members had brought that up too.
Absolutely.
And so that was discussed, that
well.
whiteboard was filled up during the executive committee meeting, and that was a large portion of it is what's gonna be the administrative support to make sure we meet the requirements. And like I told folks, I don't think the PDC would have agreed to it if it was gonna diminish the capacity of leadership at the PDC. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, Mr. Chair, I certainly don't question her capabilities, but for those who may watch this at home, I want them rest assured that you guys have a tremendous plan in place to take care of this. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for bringing that up. Ms. Schneider, anything further, ma'am? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
CO and G.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time is 10:30 and we will adjourn again.
Official adjournment.